Hey again, Gamerman55111. This is Codebreaker 2001, aka CB 2001, aka Daniel, and I'm just adding this second reply to the video as you've requested, with instead of using the text reply. Uh, well, as I said before in the previous video, I completely agree with your point of view. Ghostbusters 2 is a pretty good sequel, and honestly, now, of course, I too would also love to see a part 3. And, technically, you could say the Ghostbusters video game, the recent video game, is a part 3, it'd be sort of weird because people wouldn't get the idea unless that was an actual film. So, seriously, Ghostbusters 3 as an actual movie, I think it's about time we actually did it. Hell, Rambo came back. If Rambo came back, why not? If Rocky came back, why not? I'm trying to think of another one of those characters that came back from the 80s. Okay, if the Frog Brothers from the Lost Boys came back, I'm sure they can do, I'm sure a part 3 of Ghostbusters is possible. Now, I just also wanted to reiterate one small bit of detail in relation to this particular video, since, I was watching your response and I saw that that you sort of understood what I was saying, but I'm not saying that that the explanation, that the storyline being almost exactly the same as the first film is the end-all be-all explanation as to why many people hate the second film. I'm just saying that it's a possible explanation. I'm not sure if, for all I know, I could be wrong. It could be mainly it could be a combination of a wide variety of things. Maybe it's how Slimer's appearance could be different. I don't know. All I know is that I know how the storylines in both the movies are, for the structure of it, are practically almost the same. But I'm not saying that it is it's the definitive reason. I'm just saying that it's a possible explanation. And, I could very well be wrong. I could be very wrong. When it comes to my point of view and understanding things, I tend to think outside the box. And normally I tend to think as a storyteller and as a filmmaker. And, a lot of fans, sometimes they hate sequels because of one thing or another. Like, for example, people dislike The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, even though it's continuing on the same story arc from the first film. And of course, these fans dislike those two films because they feel, story-wise, it's inferior and it's full of plot holes. And of course, same thing with slasher movies, if you think about it. Friday the 13th. How many Friday the 13th sequels were there? Tons. And even though that fans of those sequels hated them, they still did some. They were still, even though they hated them because, it was just the same old typical thing. It's just, they still on some level liked it. And of course, as long as there's going to be a sequel, there's always going to be a sequel. It's just that, sequels are always hard to do. Normally, when it comes to me and myself, whenever I come up with a story idea, if I'm going to have a sequel, I'm going to plan for it at the same time as I do the first story. Because I tend to make sure that I'm always thinking one step ahead of the audience. So that way, at the end of the first film, I don't, set up, this tacky open ending. It could be an isolated story, but still have the possible opening for a part 2. That's me. That's how I think. That's how I tend to think about my stories. I've got a whole story universe I've been working on, And, I'm sure some people would like some stories, hate others. But needless to say, I mean, like I said before, I do not know if my explanation is the end-all be-all explanation as to why, some people knock on Ghostbusters 2, but I could say that it might be a possible detail to explaining it. Okay? Like I said before, I could be wrong, and, I acknowledge the fact that I could very well be wrong. So, like I said, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you that that fans should knock the part 2 because it's just continuing on what was established in the first film. It's a funny movie, and honestly, it follows, that continuing storyline a lot more than most films would. I mean, many people complained about Hannibal, the third film that was ever made based off of any of the Hannibal Lecter movies. People, hated, hated Hannibal because they complained, that it wasn't like Silence of the Lambs, that it didn't have Jonathan Demme directing, it didn't have Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling. And I'm not sure how many people have actually paid attention to the actual novel, but the novel wasn't even Silence of the Lambs. And yet the novel was pretty good. And I thought, the movie Hannibal was, it was the logical progression of it. And the fact that it wasn't Silence of the Lambs is what made it, that sold it for me. That it wasn't, rehashing what we've already seen before. I mean, Silence of the Lambs basically extended what was in the novel Red Dragon. And so naturally, it makes sense for that, for Hannibal to try to establish itself as a different kind of monster. And I like that. And so, some people, they want the same look, the same feel. If somebody's not involved with it, they will like it or dislike it. Like the whole thing with the Terminator films. The last two films, I honestly didn't like Terminator, 3, but I thought Terminator Salvation was kind of okay, but it could have been better. I'm not saying seriously, for some fans, who are diehard, Terminator fans, they'll only acknowledge Terminator, Terminator 2, and Terminator 2 3D, the Universal Studios attraction. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it or anything like that, but they tend to do that. But however, there are, the average film fans that actually just continue to acknowledge Terminator 1, 2, 3, and Terminator Salvation. And, of course, like I said, I could very well be wrong about my point of view. But it's just when it comes to sequels, they're always, it's really hard to determine what makes or breaks a sequel. And sometimes it could be just the simplest thing or simple detail. And, I don't know the actual answer as to why Ghostbusters 2, failed, commercially and why people dislike it. But the fact that it still has a fan base, the fact that there are people that love both 1 and 2, like you and me, that's saying something. And of course, I love it because, they're both fun films. And not only that, I grew up watching these movies. I remember watching Ghostbusters 1 on HBO back when they had the video jukebox. And they were showing stuff, they would show it like back to back with other horror movies like John Carpenter's The Thing. I remember watching that on HBO. That's saying something. But of course, that's just me. Well, I hope things continue to go well with you, Gamerman 55111, and I hope that this video response has appeased you. Of course, I hope you continue to have a great day and that things continue to go well on the other end of your computer screen. And don't cross the streams.